I'm going to hand over to Claire McGuire, the IFLA representative on the Blue Shield board, and ask Claire to do the impossible, which is a resume of a vast amount of documentation. Thank you very much indeed. Sent in by the national committees as part of their planning and reporting process, which I'll come to in my presentation later on. So Claire, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Hi, everybody again. As Peter said, my name is Claire McGuire. I'm a Policy and Research Officer at the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, IFLA. And as you have heard from our Secretary General, Mr. Garrett Leitner, in the previous session, we are one of the 4 founding organizations of Blue Shield. And just to echo Mr. Leitner's remarks, we highly value that spirit of collaboration that's at the heart of Blue Shield. That it was there 25 years ago at the founding, and it continues to be central to the work of Blue Shield today. And of course, one critical aspect of this collaboration is the dedication and contribution of the national committees of the Blue Shield. And these national committees help enable collaboration across memory institutions, monuments, and sites in a national context, as well as information sharing between national stakeholders and the international community. This serves to strengthen our collective capacity to safeguard the cultural property of all people. So I'm happy to address you today to offer a brief look into the work of Blue Shield national committees. Let me quickly share my screen, just one moment. With respect to the cultural property protection in armed conflict and natural and human caused disaster, national committees of the Blue Shield work in these areas. And every year, national committees are asked to report to the Blue Shield International Board on their activity in these areas, as well as challenges that they faced over the year. And I assist IFLA in our work with Blue Shield, and earlier this year I had the privilege of helping the board review the National Committee annual reports for the year 2020. And as Emma has already spoken to, we're celebrating 25 years of Blue Shield. So I note that the work of the committees in 2020 is, of course, only a recent moment in a long history. I feel it's important to note as well that no attempt was made to compare committees or committee activities to one another. This was to highlight the work that all the committees are doing in their areas and in their countries. And I would like to point out right now, for time's sake, I'm only sharing some activities to give you an idea of the types of activities committees are doing. This is by no means not everything from the reports, and you can find more information elaborating on these reports as well as activity that the committees have taken after 2020, so over the course of this year, on Blue Shield's website, and I will close with some links for you. So without further ado, we've received reports from committees located in Oceania, Europe, South America, Asia, North America, and Africa. And at the time, and some national committees were still in the process of accreditation, so we will receive even more reports for the year 2021 in the coming year. And so, as I'm sure you are well aware, the #1 challenge faced by every committee in 2020 was the uncertainty, upheaval, and tragedy that came with the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just noted one example here on the screen of how committees adjusted their work to address the pandemic. So this example is from the Australian National Committee. It provides guidance for closing collections of movable cultural heritage in collecting organizations. So with that context, I've grouped the activities of national committees into similar categories along the lines of the 6 areas of action that I highlighted earlier. The majority of activities concerned the building and strengthening of connections nationally, regionally, and internationally. This includes, among other examples, Curaçao's initiative to establish a regional emergency group, the Caribbean Heritage Emergency Network, both Georgia and Poland's collaboration with their national committees, the Red Cross, Senegal's negotiations with the Ministries of Culture and Tourism for the development of a Senegalese cultural passport, The Greek Committee's long-term collaboration with the NGO Heritage and Museums and participation in the Mediterranean online forum, Circle the Med, Norway's contact with the Forum for Risk Preparedness, and the Netherlands' cooperation with the Consortium of European Research Libraries. And these examples I'm giving show the breadth of topics within cultural heritage on which Blue Shield national committees are seeking to build partnerships. Many committees worked to increase collaboration with their national armed forces on the presence of considerations for cultural property protection. Some examples include Ireland's 3-day course on cultural property protection for peacekeeping deployment, Poland's co-organization and development of workshops and trainings with their Ministry of National Defense, the USA's Leader Professional Development sessions offered for various military units and with NATO, the Netherlands' contact with the Ministry of Defense, Denmark's relationship building with the Danish Military Academy, Austria's initiation of preparations for the creation of a competence center for the protection of cultural property at the Austrian Military Academy, and the signing of an MOU for cooperation and training between the Association of Austrian Peacekeepers and the Austrian National Committee, and the UK's link to the British Army Cultural Property Protection Unit. In the area of cooperation with law enforcement, the UK committee has cooperated on investigations related to trafficking and theft. Similarly, Norway participated in a working group on the prevention of cultural crime with the Norwegian Ministry of Culture. Much activity also related to education, training, and capacity building. Many committees carried out work related to raising public awareness, taking advantage of social media to reach new audiences virtually, such as Germany's Trafficking Culture campaign. South Korea produced and disseminated a booklet to raise awareness and build potential partnerships and helped the boards work on accreditation of training programs. Peru also raised public awareness through efforts to identify monuments with the Blue Shield emblem as part of a public activity with the municipality of Arequipa, and carried out activities with volunteers and with school children. Awareness raising activity also included committee members' presence at various conferences and other events, giving addresses, keynotes, and lectures. Some examples included Czech Republic's series of lectures on cybersecurity, France's symposium Bouncing Back After the Tragedy, North Macedonia's forum on packaging and transport of cultural goods, and the Netherlands panel discussions on collection security and water damage to paper collections. In Georgia, within the ELIF-funded project standing for the safeguarding of cultural heritage of Gori, the committee produced a training for museum professionals on preventative conservation and handling of materials. And many committees engaged with students and universities in this work and in other projects. Just one example, Senegal participated in the training of students on the heritage profession and on various UNESCO conventions. National committees were also involved in producing publications. We saw publications from North Macedonia, for example. Tools were also published, including France's Health Watch, Safety and Security in Containment Situations, and Czech Republic's revised edition of the Manual on Preventative Measures and Rescue Work in Emergency and Afterwards for Library Collections and Support Activities. And many committees also worked on translations of existing documents. Many training and awareness raising activities concerned risk preparedness and risk reduction. Australia shared resources on information on natural disasters to member associations and to the general public. And one major activity of Blue Shield France is an initiative to improve fire safety in response to the Notre Dame fire. This included a study on the fire risk in heritage buildings. France is also involved in similar preparedness work concerning flooding through the Heritage and Flooding Mission. And this work kind of aligns with the discussion we were just having around working on risk preparedness in areas that could very well be related to climate change related hazards. So additional training in this area was carried out by Germany's participation in a workshop with the German Archaeological Institute on first aid mechanisms for the support of cultural heritage during and after disaster, and in Curaçao's presentations on disaster emergency response in regional Caribbean heritage networks. In addition to capacity building, committees also worked in national and regional networks to assist in post-disaster recovery. Blue Shield Iceland worked in collaboration with government departments on the recovery of a national technical museum following a mudslide. In terms of information gathering, Blue Shield Australia conducted a survey to quantify the impact of bushfires and extreme weather events that, if you remember, were experienced across Australia in the end of 2019 into 2020. And this gave insight into the impact of these events on cultural heritage institutions. The USA engaged in monitoring and analysis of conflict-afflicted regions. Britain further engaged in ongoing collaboration with heritage professionals in Syria and Afghanistan, including a partnership with the Prince Claus Fund. The United States members also contributed to recovery following the Our Lady Church fire at Sanssouci, Haiti, with Queen's Quirra University. That was also with support of Prince Claus Fund. And members engaged with the U.S. Cultural Heritage Coordination Committee to provide emergency assessments following disasters in Puerto Rico and the Bahamas. During the period of civil unrest experienced in Peru in 2020, National Committee worked with various groups of civil volunteers for the protection of sculptures, public ornaments, and cultural heritage present in affected cities. And other work seeks to build capacity in this area. For instance, Ireland was invited to draft guidelines for first responders to emergency situations, which include cultural property or a heritage site. And South Korea has carried out work to survey and list cultural heritage that needs priority protection in emergencies. All national committees stated their work or their ambitions to build on their work in an advisory capacity on the implementation of the 54 Hague Convention and its two protocols, as well as other relevant conventions. This was the highest priority for the UK Blue Shield Committee in 2020. They participated in various working groups to encourage and support better UK implementation of the 54 Hague Convention. They also responded to several calls for evidence in various UK government consultations on relevant topics. Australia also engaged in this way, providing a submission to the 2020 Royal Commission into Natural Disaster Arrangements and the Parliamentary Inquiry into the destruction of caves at the Yunkin Gorge in the Pilbara region of Western Australia. The US committee led a coalition of heritage associations and organizations in support of the US process for conducting an international loan of cultural objects. Members also gave presentations to allied professional associations on topics in law and policy of cultural heritage preservation. Poland took steps to encourage the government to adopt the Council of Europe Nicosia Convention and the UNIDROIT Convention on stolen or illegally exported cultural objects. And finally, Georgia held an interagency roundtable meeting in conjunction with the project planning the safeguarding of cultural heritage of Gori, which included a discussion on developing detailed policies and guidelines for emergency services on dealing with cultural property during disasters. And again, this is just a selection to show that the span of types of work that the committees have done. It is by no means everything that was included in these reports, as Peter alluded to. And by sharing this summary with you, I wanted to highlight all the different types of work of the committees and crucially of the volunteers that are active in these committees. And over the course of 2021, each of these committees mentioned here, as well as the others that have not yet been mentioned, they continue to strengthen national capacity to protect cultural property. For example, the board received multiple reports over the course of this year on committees engaging in disaster recovery following storms or flooding that was experienced throughout 2021, just as an example. So as I said, I will close by pointing to you to where you can hear more from the national committees themselves. Here on the screen, you can find links to the committee contact to the National Committee news section and a link to where you can find full 2020 reports. And you can also access the presentations of the national committees introducing themselves to you and to their work here at this link. And I think Emma had also shared that in her opening presentation. So with that, I thank you very much for your attention. And I wish all the best to you for the remainder of this conference. Thanks.
Claire, thank you very much indeed for that impossible task done very well.